We are smack dab in the middle of our summer sermon series on the Psalms. So far, we have talked about Psalm 100, and we have talked about Psalm 13. Today, we are talking about the 23rd Psalm. If you don't know any Psalms, you know this Psalm. Our homework for the last few weeks, in case you have forgotten, is to be reading these Psalms. The one we've already talked about, 100, 13, what we're talking about today, the 23rd, and the weeks to come, the 30th and the 150th, to read these Psalms. Because one of the things that we have discovered is that as we read the Psalms are also reading us. The Psalms mimic the rhythm of the ancient people of Israel. It is their hymnal, it is their book of prayers, and as it mimicked the rhythm of their life, of their relationship with one another, with God, with all of creation, the Psalms also mimic the rhythms of our life. So the homework has been to read these Psalms, to reflect on them, and to see what your Psalm story is. How does it fit with the ones that we have read so far? So we've talked about 113. Did anybody actually do your homework? Good. You got any stories you want to share about how those two Psalms fit into your lives? Last week, Wendy talked about how she had this chaotic dream, and she woke up and read Psalm 13, and it was right there together. This chaotic dream of going down into the pit, the lament, how long, O Lord? Anyone else? What about the 23rd Psalm? Does anybody have a story about the 23rd Psalm and how it fits into your life? Okay, I know you got a story, you're just not wanting to share it. Richard?
The sheep are not too smart, and when their wool gets wet and they fall over, the shepherd has to come and pick them up and put them back on their feet. It restores my soul. It has a link with that kind of an obligation on the shepherd's part.
The obligation of the shepherd to lift the sheep back to their feet. And you're right about sheep not being very smart. I got a lot of stories about that. Anyone else? Well, so what I'm finding out is that even though you're not sharing necessarily, everyone has a psalm story. Even Bono has a psalm story. Does everybody know who Bono is? Lead singer for U2? Yeah. Okay, so there's a guy whose name is Eugene Peterson. Do y'all know who that is? Yeah. Eugene Peterson wrote the translation of the Bible known as The Message. It's a very smart, well-rounded pastor and theologian and a teacher. And one day, one of his students came to him about 10 or 15 years ago and said, "Hey, you're in Rolling Stone magazine." And he said, I thought that was a band, not a magazine. No, the magazine. They interviewed Bono, and they asked him what he was reading, and he said he'd been reading Eugene Peterson, that he'd been reading you. Isn't that amazing? And Eugene Peterson said, "Who's Bono?" Well, so over the next few years, it finally works out that they get to meet, and they become friends. They develop a friendship. And it comes to just recently, Fuller Theological Seminary organized a meeting for the two of them at Eugene Peterson's house. There's a video online, you can watch the whole thing. And they talk about the Psalms. They sit down at a table and they talk about the Psalms. And they ask Bono his earliest memory of the Psalms, and he says that he remembers as a child in the Church of Ireland, they sang the Psalms. Remember we talked about people who sing the Psalter? He remembers singing the Psalms and thinking, these are great words. They're terrible melodies, but great words. He said, but then they sang the 23rd Psalm, and that was it altogether. Those were powerful words, powerful melodies. He said, and that's what it's all about. Everybody's got a psalm story. From kindergarten to 3rd grade, I attended a private Baptist Christian school. And so, as you can imagine, one of the things that we had to do every week was memorize Bible verses. And in 2nd grade, we memorized the 23rd Psalm. Of course, in the King James Version. Is there any other version? And I remember that same year, right around the time that we were memorizing it, my grandfather passed away. This was my mom's dad, Daddy Bob. And I was a little confused about part of the song. First of all, being in second grade, King James Version, these and thous, but that phrase in there about being in the valley of the shadow of death, I didn't get that very much. And so I asked my mom about that. And she just looked at me and replied, she said, that's where Daddy Bob is now. And that really creeped me out. I did not know what to do with that information. But then we kept reading. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. He might have been in the shadow of the valley of death, but he feared no evil because God was with him. Now, I've come to understand from my point of view that the shadow of the valley of death may not be a literal place, that it probably represents something more anytime we go into a difficult or trying time in our lives. But the important part that stayed with me from all of that, I will fear no evil. That's just one of my psalm stories. Everybody's got a psalm story. You don't? We'll work on that this week. So as we've been talking about the Psalms, we come now to the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd. Now, for some reason, this psalm connects with almost everybody, right? I mean, we talked about how, when we first started talking about this, how if you go to a funeral and you don't hear the 23rd Psalm, you feel like something is missing, right? And when I was in seminary, the church that I interned at, I learned one very important thing from the head pastor there. She said, at funerals, always read the 23rd Psalm, always read it in the King James Version, and always do what Lady did, invite everyone to say it along with you. I can't tell you how many people I've had come up to me after funerals and say, I didn't remember that I remembered that, but the words just came out. So what is it about this song? What is it that makes it so great anyway? I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of surprising how much people connect with this song, especially in the United States, especially in Texas, because in Texas we like cows, not sheep, right? We like beef, not mutton. That's the way it is. And y'all know, I've shared with you before how much I love Westerns and grew up reading Louis L'Amour books. Well, one of the main narratives of the Old West is that tension between the cattlemen and the sheepmen, the ranchers and the sheep farmers, the shepherds. There was a lot of tension there. And the narrative was pretty much controlled by the cattlemen. And the cattlemen convinced everyone just how mangy and lowly and awful shepherds were. I mean, it was just a given. In fact, it was such a given that, anybody seen the movie Big Jake, John Wayne? A few of you? So early on in the movie, Big Jake, John Wayne, rides up on a few cowboys about to hang a Scotsman. And he rides up and he says, what'd he do? Is he a murderer or a horse thief? He's a sheep farmer. Oh, phew! That explains the odor. It's like just being a sheep farmer was enough to be hanged. Don't worry. Big Jake saved him. It all turned out okay. But there was this narrative of how awful shepherds were, and yet still, for some reason, we still connect with this song. The Lord is my shepherd. Now, in case you're wondering, I have an idea about why that is. I have a hunch. If you think about this song, The Lord is my shepherd, the 23rd Psalm, and the psalm we read last week, Psalm 13, How long, O Lord? They're almost similar. There's some similarities in there. Psalm 13 was a psalm of lament. How long, O Lord, will you hide your face from me forever? And then the 23rd Psalm has a strong bit of lament in there. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, the valley of the shadow of death. The difference being is that the majority of the 23rd Psalm is not just about lament, but about trust. trust in God. Trust in God, who is our shepherd. One thing that I heard this week is that the 23rd Psalm connects and resonates with so many people because this is a psalm for people for whom this is not their first rodeo. They've been through it before. They've been down to the pit and they've come back. They've been in those trying places, the valley of darkness, and God was with them. The 23rd Psalm resonates with us because we know there are dark moments. We also know that God is with us. I think people connect to the Shepherd Psalm so much because we connect with this idea of trusting God. Now, I'll admit that for me, I would love to tell you that I am a person who trusts people blindly, but I do not. I am not easy to come to a place of trusting other people. I have been let down and disappointed too many times to just jump out in trust for another person. You know, I have been disappointed in politicians that have said one thing and ended up doing another. I have been let down by friends who promised they would be there for me, but at the last minute something comes up and they can't do it. I have been heartbroken by family members who have just forgotten the promises that they made. Now, I know in reality that none of these things were probably done maliciously. You know, I know that those people I love who may have broken my heart when they didn't do what they promised, they didn't break that promise on purpose. You know, life happens. Life happens and we can't always do the things that we say we're going to do. That's reality. And for me, the reality is that these things are just going to happen. And so it makes it hard for me to trust people. But it's not that way with God. God doesn't say one thing and do another. God doesn't break promises. If God's going to show up, God's going to show up. This psalm is like an outline of why we trust God. We trust God because of what God has done, is doing, and will do. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The Lord is with me. I have everything I need. The Lord makes me to lie down in green pastures, beside still waters, restores my soul. God has been with me in those wonderful, pleasing moments of life. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Even though I have seen the pits of despair in my life, I know God was with me. God pulled me through to the other side of that valley. The Lord is with me. He anoints my head with oil, my cup overflows. He seats me at a feast before my enemies. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Not only is God with me, God wants good things for me. God is preparing a place for me that is such a wonderful place that even my enemies want to be there with me to join in the feast. God will be with me, promising that things will be better. We trust God because of what God has done, what God is doing, and what God will do. This psalm reminds us of God, who is trustworthy. God who was, God who is, and God who will be. Amen.